Alright, so my monk, I geared more toward greater rifts. Greater rift farming. This monk build I like a lot. Alright. So, this one I'm going to start with the gear because it's so great. Alright. So, you want the 6th set of your Raiment of 1,000 Storms set. What this set does is your spirit generators have 25% chance to increase attack speed and deal 300% increased damage. The 4th piece, Dashing Strike, spends 75 spirit but refunds a charge when it does. So what that does is means I can dash and never run out of charges unless I run out of spirit. 6th set is your spirit generators increase the weapon damage of your dashing strike by 12,500%. So that means that right here it says quickly dash up to 50 yards, striking enemies along the way for 370 weapon damage as fire. This is a fire build. So 370%, but when I hit my auto attack, that now does 12,500%, which is a lot, and that's for 6 seconds. So every dash is now, instead of 370, it is now 12,500. That's where all the damage comes from. You just dash all over the place and untouchable, basically. Everything that you can get, and I have not optimized since I've changed my gear, you want cooldown cost reduction. Everything is based around the Cinder Coat. The Cinder Coat, the secondary reduces the resource cost of fire skills by 30%. I got the highest roll on that. So instead of costing 75% spirit, it now costs about 50%, 55%, something around there, or 55 spirit, I'm sorry, versus the 70 spirit or 75 spirit that it gets from the 4 piece of the Raiment set, which means I get more dashes. More dashes I get, more damage I do, and I want dashing strike damage on top of the elemental damage on my monk. So dashing strike damage on the chest, dashing strike damage on the shoulders. Shoulders is a little bit more defensive. Shoulders are all defensive. Chest is offensive. Jewelry is all offensive, as best as you can. Gloves are offensive. Legs and boots are defensive. A weapon is offensive. And again, I want cooldown cost reduction, which, where do I actually have that? I think I'm really low on that. Reduces all resource costs by 8%. Reduces all costs by 8% right there, as well as cooldown of all skills. Now, cooldown. The reason I don't push cooldown reduction in this build is because of this Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. They reworked this, and now it simulates cooldown reduction by every time reducing the cooldown of one of your skills by 1 second when you hit anybody with a resource spending attack. So what that means is as I dash, which because of this set now costs spirit, if I hit somebody with it, it reduces all of my cooldowns by 1 second. So I don't need resource or cooldown reduction as long as I can spam my dash. The more dashes I get from the cost reduction, which I have on this ring, the resource cost reduction, the more resource cost reduction I have, the more dashes I can do. The more dashes I can do, the lower the cooldowns actually are, which gives me a 100% uptime on Inner Sanctuary, Breath of Heaven, Epiphany, and Mantra of Salvation. Now everything has 100% uptime, which is amazing to have 100% uptime on all of the abilities, and I'll go into those in a little bit. anywhere, like I said, anywhere that I can get, I want fire damage. I've got fire damage on my bracers. I've got fire damage on my chest. I've got my weapon does fire damage. Let's see, fire damage. I've got 38% total fire damage. So that's pure damage. And when Dashing Strike does fire damage, that's pure damage on top of the 12,500% damage. I'm actually increasing it even more on top of the Dashing Strike damage here. And the reason I say sheet damage is a lie is because these Dashing Strike damages and the fire, the elemental damages don't add into the sheet damage. So it doesn't matter that I don't have a 3 million or 4 million sheet damage right here. All that matters is that I have damage increase on all of my abilities. These Spirit Guards are seasonal only. What they do is they reduce damage taken every time I use a Spirit Generator by between 30 and 40%. So I'm taking 38% reduced damage all the time because I'm spamming my auto attacks and Dashing Strike. I want cooldown of all skills, and actually I could probably change that gem, but having them reduced even further, 12.5% is significant. And then I go full Dex gems. Like I said, survivability on the belt. You want Dex Fit. Ideally, on every piece of gear, you want secondary to have the resistances. And the reason for that is one of the passives. It's Harmony. I'll go into that in a little bit. But on every piece of gear that you can get, and I think I've done a pretty good job of getting it on most things that I have resist on, is getting it as a secondary damage, or secondary stat is the resist all, or a specific resist, because it turns into all resist. So I've got crits. Hellfire Amulet is probably the best for this build. It gives you a 5th passive, and ideally you want a cooldown cost reduction with crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and a socket. This one with the 6% melee damage reduction gives me a lot more survivability than anything else. I use a Goguk of Swiftness gem, Bane of the Trap gem here, and Taguk here. This one's significantly higher level gems because again I push the greater rifts on this. The last piece for this build is a Flying Dragon. If you don't have a Flying Dragon of any caliber, you're gonna want 2 one-handed swords. Either a Gift of Celeria, like this, with cost reduction, or a Pig Sticker. Let's see, do I have one of those? Yep. A Pig Sticker. The reason I say these is because with the gem in it, you get 5 primary stats, so you get more damage actually outputted from these than anything else. Having Dex, Vit, primary damage as 3 of them, then you get 2 other stats. I've got life per hit on these, cooldown reduction on this one, and then resource cost and movement speed on this. These aren't ideal rolls on them, but they're decent. I believe there's one other that I have that also has a 5th stat. I don't see it though. But ideally, you're going to want this Flying Dragon. What the Flying Dragon does is the secondary has a chance to double your attack speed. Double your attack speed when attacking. So what that means is my attacks attack this fast. They double from this. So it can proc again. And these are 2 really good procs. Right in a row. the more that your Flying Dragon procs, the more you attack. The more you attack, the more spirit you get back. The more spirit you get back, the more dashes you can do. The more dashes you can do, the more damage you do. That is the key for this build, is, again, reducing the cost and building as much spirit as you can. So let's go into the skills real quick. I've got Fist of Thunder Quickening. Reason I use Quickening is because it generates 20 spirit per attack, which is the highest spirit regen of any other primary. If you're having survival issues, Crippling Wave with Tsunami, making it cold, could also work. What else is there? Crippling Wave, either Concussion. Oh, here it is, Breaking Wave. If you need more damage from your auto attacks, they can, or if you're running in a group, Breaking Wave is really nice. But again, Fist of Thunder Quickening, you get the most spirit regen from it. Then you want Dashing Strike with Fire. Dashing Strike, quickly dash 50 yards, striking enemies along the way for not 370 but 12,500 with this build as Fire. And then with Radiance, you gain 15% increased attack speed for 4 seconds after using Dashing Strike. The reason we use the attack speed is because more attack speed, the more damage, the more spirit regen, and again, cycles down to more damage. Defensive, I use Inner Sanctuary. It's on my 1 bar. Creates a runic circle. The main thing is that Forbidden Palace. Enemies inside Inner Sanctuary take 30% increased damage and have their movement speed reduced by 80%. This on top of reducing the damage you take by 55% is really nice. Breath of Heaven. Having this have 100% uptime with the heals kind of meh on it. The main thing is you gain 14 additional spirit from spirit generated attacks 5 seconds after using Breath of Heaven. And again, like I said, you'll have 100% uptime on this because it's 5 dashes and this is back off cooldown. And from nothing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm not even empty yet. And then I get more spirit from Breath of Heaven. 1, 2.
I will not do that.
Again, that has to hit something for the Obsidian Ring to actually work. Then I've got Epiphany. Increases spirit regen by 20 per second, so that allows me to go from empty to full in about half of 1 Epiphany. So I'll have permanent uptime on this with the cooldown. And what this also does is it infuses with the Desert Shroud Rune. Infuse yourself with sand, reducing damage taken by 50%. Lastly is Mantra of Salvation. I've got so much damage everywhere else. Having this dodge, as well as the increased resistances, keeps me alive. It costs 50 spirit, but you gain so much spirit that you can keep this up. And actually, using the Goguk of Swiftness, using the Taguk to keep that up, you'll see I get my stacks from using the mantra. So you should keep that up, as well as through the dashes. So I got both of those. Passives, I got Seize the Initiative. Damage dealing to enemies above 75%, increase your attack speed by 30%. So as I'm moving from group to group, I gain increased damage to take them down faster. And within 4 seconds, white mobs should be dead. The second one, Guardian's Path. While dual wielding, you gain 35% chance to dodge, but while using two-handed weapons, all spirit generation is increased by 15%. Again, more spirit regen, more dashes, more damage. Near-death experience. This is amazing for greater rift pushing. The higher greater rifts go, the more likely you are to actually die. I don't know how many times since I've switched to this that I've completed rifts in time versus failing them just because I didn't have to wait for a death timer. Last one is Beacon of Yitar. Reduce all cooldowns by 20%. That is a pure uptime on this, 20%. On the dash and strike as well. When you do run out of dashes, you're kind of screwed until you get it back. So the faster you get this cooldown, and that's the only reason to even bother with cooldown reduction, is for when you're out of your mobility and you're out of spirit and you are screwed, you want to come back to not being screwed as quickly as possible. And then the last passive I have is from my Hellfire Amulet. Gain the Harmony passive. So the Harmony passive, 40% of your single elemental resistances from items. Instead, increase your resistance to all elements. So what it means is on an item like this, where I've got 159 poison resistance, what it means is 40% of that actually goes to all resist instead of just poison. So I've got roughly around 65 all resist from this, and the rest of it is all poison. So I get 65 all resist plus about 90-ish. I'm not going to do exact math. 90-ish poison resist, and that goes for everything. Secondary resist 154 physical, about the same. 60 all resist, and about 90 physical resist. So you gain all resist from having it as a secondary, which is awesome because most of the time all resist right here on my boots, if it is a primary stat, if resistance to all elements is a primary stat, you can't roll it as a secondary, and vice versa. But if I didn't have resist all here, I could get something that was more beneficial, like even regenerates life per second. That's more useful than having it resist all on your primary stat. So we've got all of that. Again, you want around 40% crit. My crit hit damage might be a little low for this, but again, having it low with a decent crit chance is fine because you're dashing so fast that you're going to crit and you're going to do insane amount of damage. So Paragon points, you're going to want your movement speed up to 25%. You can't go past 25%. So if I've got 12% on my boots, I can't go faster than 25%, so I just put points in enough to get to 25%, which makes it 30%. Everything else goes into dexterity. Offense, you want critical hit chance up to 40%. Once you're above 40, you can start negating that. And then cooldown reduction, then critical hit damage. If you're above 40%, just put whatever you need to get to 40. And then put cooldown reduction, critical hit damage, then critical hit chance. Defense, you want resist all, armor, and life regen. Reason I don't say life percent is because you're gonna have, like, I've got 670,000 life in this build. That's already almost too much, I think. Life regen, you're gonna gain that back. Life percent is not as beneficial as just the straight up life regen, but that'll go up to personal preference. Main thing is resist all, then armor. Utility, you want resource cost reduction, because again, less cost, more dashes, more damage. Then you want area damage. In the Greater Rift farming pushing that I do, you want you need to group everything up, and the more they're grouped up, the more area damage you can actually do. And then life per hit, and then gold find. Gold find's kind of wasted unless you're doing like T6 or actual gold runs. So that is the Paragon points. Now I'm going to show you